everyone, and welcome. My name is Mariko Yoshisato Kevi. I'm Director of Higher Education Partnerships with the National Partnership for Student Success, and we are so delighted to have you here today for our webinar focused on the Higher Education Coalition and engaging nonprofit organizations in collaborations to answer the President's call to action. Before we get started, I'd just like to let you know that we will be talking about the origins of the National Partnership for Student Success very briefly, along with announcing the most recent call to action for higher ed institutions, and then talking a little bit more about federal work study and how nonprofits can get involved, followed by a wonderful panel of experts in the field who have been gracious enough to join us today and share their insights. Then we'll have a brief Q&A to conclude the webinar. I'm excited to introduce Tara Wallen from AmeriCorps, who will be giving our opening remarks. Thank you so much, Tara. We're very excited to have you here today.
Thanks, Mariko. I'm really excited to be here with my partners from the MPSS Support Hub and some of our partners out in the field. As many of you know, AmeriCorps is the only federal agency focused on public service and volunteerism. Each year, we distribute between $800 million and $1 billion to more than 2,000 organizations across the country to address critical needs within their local communities. About 200,000 AmeriCorps members and volunteers serve at more than 35,000 locations across the country, and that includes about 36,000 people that serve directly in over 9,000 K-12 schools. AmeriCorps members receive a living stipend and access to educational awards at the end of each service year. We have a long history of partnering with colleges and universities at the federal level. More than 250 institutions receive grants from AmeriCorps, and more than 300 have raised their hands to become schools of national service. We know that partnerships between P-12 education systems, nonprofit organizations, and colleges and universities can feel daunting. But as you'll see throughout this conversation, we also have great examples from across the country of AmeriCorps grantees and other nonprofits doing this work in high quality, evidence-informed ways to meet the needs of students. Collaboration requires capacity, but it also allows partners with aligned goals to maximize the support they can provide to the students that need it most. As my colleagues at the Department of Education pointed out in the Dear Colleague letter they released in May, and that you'll hear more about soon, organizations can utilize AmeriCorps funding in coordination with federal work study funding to maximize the resources they have available for this type of work. For example, colleges, universities, nonprofit organizations can seek funding to sponsor an AmeriCorps VISTA member that can help manage and develop community partnerships, support fundraising, and develop training and support materials for college students serving as tutors, mentors, or in other student support roles. AmeriCorps grantees can become registered student employers, allowing college students to receive compensation through federal work study, while also serving as AmeriCorps members in part or full-time roles. This allows those students who are serving to be of service to their college communities and to access post-service education awards that they can use to pay for educational expenses or to pay back qualified student loans. So I'm really looking forward more to hearing from those working on the ground doing this work. So I'm going to turn it back to Mariko, but I will say if you have specific questions about AmeriCorps, I encourage you to reach out through the National Partnership for Student Success Technical Assistance Form, or to reach out to us directly at p12education@cns.gov, and I'll share that email address in the chat. All right, back to you, Mariko.
Thank you so much, Tara. So now I'll very briefly provide a bit of information about the origins of the National Partnership for Student Success for those who are not yet aware. I'll move quickly through, but the key points are that we know the pandemic has impacted educators, students, families, schools, and communities all across the country in many different ways. And we also know that what students need to recover from the impacts of the pandemic are high quality, evidence-based resources and supports, such as tutoring and other types of guidance that's grounded, most importantly, in meaningful, trusting relationships with caring adults. So we also understand that the challenge, particularly for states, schools, and nonprofits, is finding enough staff to fill these positions and support the deep needs of students in today's pandemic recovery era. So that's where the National Partnership for Student Success comes in. The Biden-Harris administration launched the National Partnership for Student Success in 2022 to support the president's call to action for more people to serve in youth supporting roles, and specifically setting the goal of getting an additional 250,000 adults into these roles over the next 2 years. So the National Partnership for Student Success serves to help address this challenge with possible solutions. And we're a public-private partnership between the U.S. Department of Education, AmeriCorps, and the Everyone Graduates Center at Johns Hopkins University, which is where we operate the NPSS Support Hub to help move from setting a goal and making a commitment into actionable steps. This just offers a quick glimpse at the 5 key student support roles that the NPSS advocates and helps put in place. And so you can find a lot more information about what these roles entail on our website. And many of you likely already have very strong programs implementing these types of supports, which include tutors, mentors, student success coaches as a combination of a tutor and a mentor, as well as wraparound and integrated student support coordinators and post-secondary transition coaches. So we really aim to reach the full P12 spectrum and beyond. This brings us to our current priority of engaging more colleges, universities, and college students in this work. As we know, college students are a crucial lever for supporting young people in P12 contexts. So as Tara mentioned, the U.S. Department of Education recently put out a Dear Colleague letter calling on post-secondary institutions to set a public goal to answer the president's call to action in one of 2 ways. Colleges can commit to using at least 15% or more of their federal work-study funds for community service and devote any additional increase in federal work-study funds to supporting NPSS-aligned roles in those 5 categories, and that can be in schools or in out-of-school time programs. Another pathway to answering the call to action is for colleges to commit to significantly increasing the number of college students they'll place in these roles through any number of pathways and with any variety of funding sources. As we know, campuses have created lots of opportunities for college students to engage in community service through federal work study or otherwise. And we also ask that institutions share their progress with the NPSS so we can understand the baseline of how many students are currently in these youth supporting roles, and then how we're improving and growing over time. So the way colleges can answer the call to action is by officially joining the National Partnership for Student Success's Higher Education Coalition. As you'll see on the screen, we've engaged 27 institutions as coalition members so far, and the coalition is growing every day. We're excited to engage more and more colleges and universities in this work and in collaboration with nonprofit organizations, schools, and districts. And with that, I'll turn it over to Kate to provide a bit of background about the federal work-study funding.
Thank you, Mariko. I'm Kate Cochran. I'm Managing Director of the National Partnership for Student Success, and I'm really excited to share with you as an audience primarily of nonprofit practitioners or networks of nonprofits, a little bit about the basics of what federal work-study is, and also some strategies that if you are not yet partnered with a college or university, or you want to increase or improve or amplify your partnership with a college or university to support P12 students, some initial strategies that you might use to do this. So to get things started, some basics about federal work study. Federal work study is a federal financial aid program for college students who demonstrate financial need. And college students can gain access to this form of financial aid by filling out the FAFSA on an annual basis. So that's at a high level what it means for a college student who receives federal work study funding. For colleges and universities, most universities around the country, but not all, receive federal work-study funding from the U.S. Department of Education. It's about 3,400 institutions are part of this program. Similar to students, they apply annually to the U.S. Department of Education for this federal funding stream. And typically what employment processes look like in federal work-study programs, this can vary from campus to campus, but typically work-study jobs can be on campus, on a college campus. So think a job at the campus library, the bookstore, the cafeteria, or similar, or they may be off campus. Those off-campus jobs might be with a local nonprofit organization, might be at a local school district, or might be with a for-profit company that is doing job placements for federal work-study students. Typically, students who receive federal work-study funding are responsible for finding their own federal work-study job, but sometimes colleges and universities will support them in locating those jobs and understanding what types of federal work-study jobs are available to them. We'll hear a little bit from colleagues at Arizona State University on a panel shortly about what their process looks like. And off-campus employers, including nonprofits, often can advertise federal work-study job vacancies through the campus or student employment website, or with the campus office to create opportunities for students to work in P-12 student support roles with a nonprofit. Another thing to note is that because these are college students, work-study jobs are typically part-time, and it's also crucial that they accommodate college students' academic schedules. We'll hear a little bit more about some strategies for that in our panel discussion as well. So a little bit more about how our work to support P-12 students kind of fits well into the existing rules and processes around federal work study. So typically, colleges and universities are required to use at least 7% of their federal work study funding to support students who are working in community service jobs. And so you can, Mariko, I think, will put a link to the Federal Student Aid Handbook in the chat so that you can reference this directly. But community service jobs are defined as you see on my slide, but really can include a range of jobs in childcare, education, literacy training, tutoring, social services, neighborhood improvement, as well as things that may not touch the education and youth service world. And then another note here is that this 7% requirement that in many cases really encourages or requires colleges and universities to place some of their students in community service jobs, many of those in education and youth support. That requirement has been waived for the last couple of years during the pandemic, but will soon go back into effect, meaning that many colleges and universities will be looking for ways to get back to that 7% or higher of federal work study funding that they dedicate to supporting their local community. And I do want to encourage you for the most up-to-date guidance on federal work study and on community service definitions, requirements, et cetera, because they can change from time to time, to reference the most recent version of the Federal Student Aid Handbook that is available on the U.S. Department of Education's website, and I believe Mariko just put in the chat as well. So I know this is a text-heavy slide. I'll give an overview, but we'll also be sharing these slides as well as this recording with folks following this webinar. Really, a couple incentives that colleges and universities have to partner with nonprofits as well as local schools and districts to support P-12 students and youth. One, often this really does align with colleges and universities' organizational mission, vision, and the relationships that they have with their local community. So as I mentioned before, partnering with organizations like nonprofits and schools that are engaging in community service activities can help an institution meet their 7% community service requirement. And it can also help to improve relationships with communities. And in some cases, it can also help to create pipelines of students from the local community who apply to their university and eventually enroll. So that's one advantage to the college of these partnerships. And then additionally, partnering with nonprofit organizations, and in particular, nonprofit organizations that are employing students in particular, or are partnering with the institution to employ students in particular student support roles, which you see on my screen, can increase the federal cost share for work study funding. So means that the institution has to kick in less. So I encourage you to review this information, which is all outlined in the Federal Student Aid Handbook, as you think about kind of making the case for, if you're looking to partner with a college or university, why this type of partnership might be beneficial, not only to you and to local students, but to the college. I also want to note that there are a range of pathways for college students to support P-12 students or youth in their communities, and some of these may not be through federal work-study programs. There are a lot of great programs that operate through credit-bearing coursework that may involve service-engaged learning, educator prep programs that offer pre-service or pre-service opportunities for people enrolled in or interested in pursuing education to get experience working with children and youth in other types of settings. There are also a range of internship opportunities on campus that can do this work well, and other paid roles, such as partnering with funding streams other than federal work study to place students at local nonprofits. And I think another example of paid roles that isn't on this slide, but that many campuses have, are Year Up or Upward Bound programs, which are often post-secondary transitions or college and career counseling, as well as academic support programs that can do this work well. And additionally, many colleges and universities have pretty robust volunteer programs that may be organized by clubs or similar. And there are also a number of different types of partnership configurations, and you'll soon hear from our panel about a couple different types of configurations. But a couple examples that we often see are a nonprofit might apply to be a federal work-study off-campus employer at a university, and they partner with the university to design and advertise a community service role, such as tutoring, such as early literacy, to advertise those positions to college students who might qualify. And then another potential configuration is that a nonprofit posts existing job or internship opportunities that are paid through funding streams other than federal work study on college job boards, or advertises them through career or internship fairs to really partner with the college on gaining exposure among college students to the range of youth support and student support roles that exist. And in particular, knowing that many of these roles, particularly in the out-of-school time space, can work well for college student schedules. And then finally, there are configurations in which a college or university might have credit-bearing internships or courses that place students at a community-based site, like a nonprofit, like a school. And nonprofits may be able to inquire with an institution about being included as a site location. So a couple strategies, and I'm really excited to hear from our panel about their specific experience here. But let's say that you're a nonprofit that is interested in partnering with a local college or university to place more college students in P-12 student support roles. So a couple strategies that we really encourage you to take. First, understand existing connections that your organization or those you work with might already have with the college or university. So are there existing programs or past programs that your organization could augment in a mutually beneficial way? Are there folks at your organization who have relationships, connections, past work with folks who work at the college or university? Or have there been past projects that you've worked on that could be picked up again? Second, we really encourage you to reach out to relevant campus departments and offices to collaborate. We'll hear a bit more specifics on some strategies here shortly, but really this can look different on different campuses and may require a bit of trial and error, given that work study positions and other community service types of work are often managed in different places on different campuses. So on one campus, it might be the student affairs office, another it might be the student employment office, another it might be the School of Education, another it might be a combination of these offices. So really being ready for some trial and error there and asking questions at the local university about who runs these types of programs and really doing targeted outreach to that particular office. And what we found at the NPSS, and we've heard from many others, is that program coordinators or program directors are often a great entry point because they kind of understand deeply the bureaucracy of a college or university and who might be the best person on campus to connect with. And they also have experience implementing direct service programs. So we'll be able to help navigate some of those conversations between a nonprofit or a district and the college and university. And a couple messaging points that we really encourage: make sure to do your homework to understand the college's mission and the current programs that they have, and tailor your pitch as to how it fits into their broader portfolio of youth support, student support activities, or community service activities. Another messaging point is really thinking about how this can be mutually beneficial for colleges in establishing better relationships with their community, in meeting their community service requirements, for nonprofits, in sometimes augmenting existing programs or expanding existing programs, for college students, and that it offers meaningful opportunities for paid employment, as well as, of course, for children and youth receiving support from these college students. And finally, we really encourage you to focus on building upon existing programs, infrastructure, funding sources, and partnerships, rather than trying to start completely from scratch. In most communities, most colleges and universities, there's some type of work already taking place. And so thinking about how these types of partnerships might augment that work rather than having to start it from scratch. So next, I am really excited to turn it over to our panel discussion, which is really going to focus on dive down into the details a little bit of what I just shared and the experiences of a number of different programs. And so I'd love to introduce our panel facilitator, Shauna Rosenzweig. Shauna is Chief Strategy Officer with Campfire National Headquarters and serves on the National After School Association's Board of Directors. From the Middle East to Sesame Street, Shauna has spent 2 decades working in youth-serving nonprofit organizations at both Campfire and the National After School Association, making connections as a core component of her role, whether it's building partnerships or connecting and inspiring after-school professionals. It's also a perfect fit for our panel discussion today. And on a personal note, Shauna has really been crucial to our efforts at the National Partnership for Student Success to develop standards that are accepted by youth-serving organizations, tutoring organizations, mentoring organizations, for what we see as quality, and also really fostering collaboration between a number of different folks in our network. Shauna, pleased to have you here. Over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Kate. Excited to be here today. So when I think about this topic, right, of fostering collaboration between nonprofit youth-serving organizations and colleges and universities, it really got me excited, right, when NPS first announced this. And as I've been working with Campfire affiliates across the country to better understand what partnerships currently exist with colleges and universities, and also what are the dreams and hopes for building partnerships, I was really struck by all the different shapes and forms that it takes, right? From working with students in schools of education to be academic tutors, to working with students and studying to get their degrees in social work, or students working in nursing schools, right? There's so many opportunities to be providing really meaningful, whether it's work study, volunteer, right, service opportunities for college students that are bringing real assets to our programs as nonprofits. And the piece that really struck me too, as I was kind of getting a sense of the landscape, was that this is my story, right? So I was in college, right? This is how I found youth-serving nonprofit organizations, was through my jobs, right? I was not so inspired by working at the front desk at my dorm or for the annual fund. And it wasn't until I found an after-school program that I thought, oh, this is what I want to do. Because I thought the way you work with young people was to be a classroom teacher. And so it was through opportunities like this that I discovered nonprofit organizations and how they serve young people. And, multiple decades later, I'm still here. And so again, this is, as Kate mentioned, I think really a mutually beneficial opportunity for both nonprofit organizations, for college students, for universities and colleges themselves, and especially for the young people, right, that we know need our support. So with that, today we're going to hear from a group of nonprofit leaders and practitioners who are already engaging with colleges and universities in this work, as well as two representatives from Arizona State University who work closely with nonprofits to place college students in high-impact student support roles. So joining us on the panel today, we have Liz Byrne, who's Director of Programs at the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Scottsdale in Arizona. And Liz brings a wealth of expertise from her years of experience with the Boys and Girls Club of America. So Liz, excited to have you here with us today. We have Rob Adams, who is the Director of Community Education Services at Arizona State University in the Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College, developing community service jobs and internships in education for ASU students. We have Yamilet Ibanez, who is a site manager for community education services at ASU Teacher College, focusing on placing ASU students in P-12 tutoring roles with community-based nonprofit organizations. And last but certainly not least, Michaela Moran is Director of Programs for Jumpstart, a national early education nonprofit that engages college students in early learning supports at preschools and early learning centers around the country. So welcome to all of you. Feel free to flip your cameras on. And to get us started, this is going to be actually a question for all of you. We know there are many ways that this work can happen and many different models that can work well. Please tell us a bit about your programs. So Yamilet, would you like to go first?
Yes, of course. Thank you guys so much for allowing me the time to speak on our wonderful program at ASU. I'm part of ASU America Reads, and like mentioned, I help place university students into nonprofit partnerships with some of the people that we have located around the Phoenix, Scottsdale, and certain areas around ASU. We also help create and develop partnerships with schools and school districts to allow students the opportunity to experience life in a school without having to be a classroom teacher. We work really hard to ensure that our K-12 students are enjoying their time with their tutor mentors, but also that the tutor mentors are gaining a successful and thrilling experience themselves.
Fantastic. Thank you. Liz, how about you? What are some of the ways that this work is happening in your programs?
Awesome. So my name's Liz. I'm the Director of Programs for Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Scottsdale. Boys and Girls Club, a lot of people have heard of us. We're a national organization, but just in a snapshot, what we do, our mission is to enable our members to reach their full potential. And we do that through academic success, good character, citizenship, and healthy lifestyle programming. As far as engaging college students, we have a lot of different ways, which we'll probably kind of discuss a little bit later, but the main partnership I want to highlight today is actually the program that Yamilet was just talking about. So we have an amazing partnership with ASU where we run the America Reads program out of one of our sites. We're actually growing to multiple sites next year. We're very excited about that. And basically what that partnership looks like is ASU students come in and they offer tutoring resources to our members. So we have a program called Power Hour, which is basically homework at the Boys and Girls Club. And what America Reads does is it comes in and it targets students and club members that are in need of some additional academic support that is, further more than what we can offer. And America Reads basically just takes our mission and takes what we're already doing and amplifies it. So that partnership is I've been working for the club for 23 years, and it's the most valuable and amazing partnership I've ever seen across the board at Boys and Girls Club. I'm very, very grateful for it.
Love it. Well, and I love the use of the term amplify, because I think that's a key part of these partnerships. And yeah, looking forward to diving into that more. Michaela, can you tell us a bit about, what your program is about, how you're engaging college students, and who you are partnering with to answer this call to action?
Thank you so much for having me. So Jumpstart is a national nonprofit, and we an early child nonprofit. And so we work with about 70 colleges and universities around the country to engage college students in a very structured supplemental curriculum that we provide in under-resourced preschools. And our curriculum is really focused on oral language and social emotional development. And for the college students, most of our funding is actually through AmeriCorps. So they are serving a 300-hour minimum time program, and they either are leveraging federal work study, or in some cases they may be getting an AmeriCorps stipend if they're not eligible for federal work study. It's as much as a year-long commitment. They receive about 40 plus hours of training, as we're welcoming students who are coming from all different backgrounds, maybe studying engineering, studying maybe sex education, psychology, all different backgrounds. So it's a really supportive program where they also serve in small teams with the same one classroom over the course of the year, so they can really build deep relationships with those kiddos and those teachers.
Fantastic. That relationship piece, right? We all know is so important and so needed. Thank you. Excited to have you all here today. Yamilet, let's talk a little bit about logistics, right? We know this is something we all think about, especially as nonprofit organizations. So help us understand from a university perspective. So ASU places college students, right, in a variety of P12 support roles through programs at different community-based sites. And this includes, right, the Boys and Girls Club, Salvation Army, local libraries, and more. Universities often have their own unique processes for managing nonprofit partnerships and student placements. So can you tell us about how ASU approaches these logistics?
Yeah, of course. So here at ASU and at America Reads, we rely heavily on the relationships that we build. We extend the opportunity of relationship building with everybody within our organization. And America Reads centers communication, transparency, flexibility, and reliability when creating our partnerships. This is also true of our partnerships with our nonprofit organizations, as well as with our tutors and with our K-12 students. We examine and reevaluate our own needs and then our own missions and values. And since ASU America Reads is a very structured and organized organization, we find that, as with any good relationship, our partners are going to have very specific and prioritized missions and visions that they have as well. And so one of the key components that we have found is to build off those commonalities and to find partners where we already share things in common, and learning how to meet in the middle once we have those standards that we've set together. Through this, learning to be flexible with our standards and themselves with their standards as well really helps us to ensure that we are creating a mutually beneficial relationship for both us and our partners. As for our, communication and reliability, we often are there at the sites. We're having conversations with the people at the sites, learning what they're doing, all what they might need our help with, how we can show up for them outside of just America Reads, really leaning into the community building aspect and making sure that we are not only there for our own interests, but also making sure that we are showing interest in the things that our partners are, doing, and all the fun stuff that they have going on as well. As with the placement of our tutors and how we get tutors, that is a really interesting process, and we are working on the process. But we really focus a lot on marketing and making sure that we can get our name out there to our students at ASU, letting them know that there is this opportunity and that we'd love to extend it to them. We do focus mainly on recruiting of federal work study students because that is where a lot of our funding comes from, but we are open to all students. We work on interviewing them in-house. Me, myself, and the other site managers, we all interview every single one of our tutors. We handpick who we want. And then we give them the option and the choice to communicate if they have a preference where they'd like to be. Some of them say, like, I was at the Boys and Girls Club when I was younger and it really made a difference. I want to give back. I want to be at a Boys and Girls Club. So what can we do to make that happen? So allowing our students to have the choice to be where they are. And then if they don't have a specific requirement or anything, then it's up to us to decide, okay, we see these person's strengths and areas of growth. Where are we going to put them? Where are they most needed? Where will they make the highest impact? And where will they learn the most and grow? And from there is where we get to actually place them at a partnership. And then from there, they get to meet the students, and then they get to decide if this is what student they want, who they want to be with, how they want to work with a student. And that process is also very fun and very interesting. But that is kind of the general gist of how logistically we work.
Great, thank you. Well, and I love the framing of kind of, right, both strengths are glows and grows, right, of both for not only right for the college students, but for the organizations or for the nonprofits, right, and the universities as well, that the strengths and don't have to be the same, right? Or the missions don't have to be the same. And it's in those partnerships, right? Everyone's kind of unique strength areas, and also, right, recognizing where your growth areas are and how the partnership can help support those, right, is so important, I think, and is a crucial piece of building successful partnerships. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you so much.
Let's stay in sunny Arizona for a second, Robin. I'm going to go over to you next. What does ASU look for or prioritize in potential nonprofit partners? And what considerations do you recommend nonprofits think about when approaching local colleges and universities?
Great, thank you. Excellent question. Here at ASU, we're looking for partners who share our commitment to strengthening the education workforce. In particular, we're looking for partners who are committed to providing personalized learning and understand that it takes a lot of people with different areas of expertise to educate a group of kids. For instance, our America Reads program is an after-school tutoring program for low-income students that offers 2-day or 4-day tutoring on a Monday, Wednesday, and Tuesday, Thursday schedule to meet the level of quality, high-impact tutoring that we want to provide. This is a long-standing and successful program here, and it works because it works with the ASU student schedules. I think the inflexibility of the organization that we're working with to work with our student schedules is incredibly important. When we're approaching when the organizations are approaching colleges and universities, first do their research on what offices and programs are being offered that may already fit the need of what you're trying to accomplish. Programs such as America Reads and America Counts, Gear Up programs, TRIO programs like Upward Bound, Math Science, or Talent Search. Colleges and universities may have a community or civic engagement programs or service learning programs or a variety of other programs that are looking to partner in the community. Here at ASU, Mary Lou Fulton, we have a Next Education workforce that we are partnering directly with our school districts to provide community educator roles outside of teachers in direct support of what the teachers are already trying to accomplish in the classroom. Just to relieve some of that one classroom, one teacher strain, and not to replace any teachers, because those are incredibly valuable in what they bring, but to support and engage the community in the classroom. Remember that creating these partnerships takes time. And even though the college or university may be able to offer federal work study, there are costs associated with these programs, and they may not be free. But there are typically less than the cost of a new employee. And there are options for funding through organizations like AmeriCorps, as well as other grants. Know the why when you're entering into a given partnership, which means having a clear conversation about the benefits of each organization seeks to receive as a result of the partnerships.
Great, thank you. I'm scribbling down notes as you're talking. And I think, again, some really important pieces, right, that you highlighted of recognizing that partnerships take time, right? So be patient in the process, do your research, know your why. I think all really important and really helpful starting points in terms of building partnerships. I'm going to hop over to the nonprofit side now. Liz, right? We know you have a wealth of experience both nationally at Boys and Girls Club of America, as well as locally at Boys and Girls Club of Greater Scottsdale. Can you tell us about how Boys and Girls Club of Greater Scottsdale in particular recruits, hires, and supports college students to serve in P-12 support roles? So what strategies do you use to maintain a strong partnership with your university partners?
Awesome. Yeah. So one of the benefits of being a youth serving organization is obviously when we reach our mission and they do become productive citizens, they become alumni and they go to college, and sometimes they want to come back and work for us, which is ideal, right? So a lot of our college age students that are actually employed with the Boys and Girls Club, I'd say 75% are alumni that they grew up, like Yamilet was talking about, they grew up at the club. It really made a big impact in their life, and they want to come back and make a difference. As far as some efforts we're making internally right now, so we are in some talks with some of our local community colleges about creating some internship opportunities to provide students who maybe want to pursue education or nonprofit work, some credit-bearing, internship opportunities with our organization. And as far as engaging them and getting them, to work at our club, we work with the universities. We go to job fairs. We go to the ASU job fair every year. We also promote on their job website specifically. I know we have a posting on ASU's Handshake website. So as far as internally working at the Boys and Girls Club, that is mainly what our efforts look like. As far as working with ASU and the America Reads program specifically, maintaining a strong partnership. I just want to echo what Yamilet and Rob already said. I mean, the relationship is so important. Communication is so important in any relationship, right? And transparency. So, if you're having a struggle, or if the functionality and logistic at your program maybe needs something different, or if they need something different, just that day-to-day communication. In our partnership, they're working directly out of some of our clubhouses. So the relationship with the site-based people are so important. So the on-site managers like Yamilet is, and our branch directors at the clubs, their relationship is probably the most important. So just making sure you have the right people in those roles that are getting FaceTime with your partners, and just making sure that it's a positive experience for everybody. But also just some best practices as far as maintaining a positive relationship. I love giving our partners a platform of making sure the community really knows what they're doing and the benefit of the partnership, and work with your marketing team and make sure that there's pictures posted and things are, on your website, and just, there's no way for us to do to fulfill our mission without some of these partnerships, and really giving them the accolades they deserve for what they're kind of bringing to the table, or just some best practices we use.
That's great. So helpful. And I think, again, just so important to show up, right, for the partnership, for your partners. And, as you talk about showing up at job fairs, showing up on, the the job boards, but also, right, yeah, how can you lend your platform as a nonprofit organization to the partner as well to share about the great work they're doing? So no, super helpful. Thank you. Michaela, can you tell us about how Jumpstart uses AmeriCorps and other funds to hire college students who may be coming to Jumpstart sites? What strategies have you seen that are important to you when you're establishing and maintaining strong partnerships with colleges and universities, as well as for the preschools and early learning centers where Jumpstart members are placed?
Great. So we are fortunate to leverage a lot of federal work study dollars at most of our 70 campus partnerships. For some campuses, if there is not federal work study dollars, or if students do not qualify for federal work study, then we do in some cases have students volunteer, or we also we request from our AmeriCorps state and national funders funding sources to have stipends. And so that's another way we're able to support the engagement of students who may not qualify for federal work study. And in some cases, this is a more a minority, but if there is course bearing credit that they can be doing, like maybe a service learning course that they're serving with Jumpstart and doing course and getting taking course and getting credit, that can be another some benefit to participating, or through some type of internship. But the vast majority is federal work study dollars or those AmeriCorps statements, which we are very appreciative of. In terms of this sort of strategies, our model, because we are engaging usually about 30 to 45 students per campus, we have a full-time staff member, a site manager at each university, and that person is like that key relationship holder who builds a relationship with the federal work study office with the campus partners. So that's been really huge, is a really critical role for us. And then we also leverage relationships or create relationships with other staff at the university. So we have principal investigators and campus champions, are the titles we use for them at each university. So we're really looking in creating a new partnership with the university to find folks in the university who our work really aligns with what they are doing. So whether it's either a school of education and it's a professor who, of early childhood, or maybe it's their service learning center, and they're really looking to help students get outside of the university bubble and engage with community. So we're looking for those connections there. And usually those folks, as I think Kate mentioned earlier, are really great at understanding the inner workings of the university, the bureaucracies, and know how to, build relationships with federal work study, and also can help maybe remove some barriers for service. And then last thing I'll mention is with regard to preschool partners, we really are also looking for those campus partners to help us find the partners. And then in some cases, Jumpstart leverages partnerships with larger, like for example, LA Unified School District, or in Massachusetts, the Head Start program. So that makes it a little bit easier for our university partners because we already have this larger working agreement. So it's one less step for them in creating that partnership.
Well, and I love keeping in mind, like, find your champion, right? Both within the nonprofit organization and the university setting as well. So important. Thank you. So to wrap up kind of this part of our panel discussion before we shift to Q&A, I'll ask all of you, right? We know building partnerships between colleges and universities and nonprofit organizations can feel daunting and overwhelming, especially when you're just getting started. So for each of you, in one sentence, I will make this a challenge here. What advice do you have for nonprofits aspiring to partner with colleges and universities to place college students in P-12 support roles with their organizations? And Yamilet, let's start with you.
Thank you. I think my one piece of advice would just be to be open and honest and communicate about what your mission and vision is and what standards you have set for yourself and for your organization. And we'll try to meet in the middle.
Perfect. Thank you. Rob, how about you?
Similar to Yamilet, I would say, plan ahead. Partnerships take time. Establish clarity on the benefits for each party in the collaboration. The more transparent each party is, the more likely for success in the partnership.
Great, thank you. Liz, what do you think? What's your one piece of advice?
I would say be okay with baby steps because partnerships take time to grow, as Rob was talking about. And it's very easy to have kind of grandiose, big ideas, but sometimes you've got to start small. So just be okay with that small stepping stone.
Great, thank you. And Michaela, how about you?
I guess sort of going back to what I was sharing earlier, but really is finding those sort of champions on campus and folks who have their work is really aligned with your mission. That's my advice.
Great, thank you. Super helpful advice. Thank you. We're going to take some questions now. So for those of you participating in the webinar, yeah, feel free to send in your Q&As. The first question we have is there a common set of reporting requirements for nonprofit organizations that are leveraging federal work-study dollars to support these NPS roles in their local organizations? So Rob, I don't know if you want to take that, and Liz, from your perspective, yeah, a common set of reporting requirements if you're leveraging federal work-study dollars.
I don't know that I would say that there's anything common about leveraging federal work-study dollars at all. It's going to depend on the award to the student, the position that they're holding. There's very, very different guidelines for every position within federal work-study. So it's I would definitely work closely with your partner at the university to figure out what is required within those guidelines. They're very, very diverse.
Great,
And I agree with Rob. I mean, on our end, it's typically grant funded, the additional support dollars. So the federal work-study dollars don't actually go directly through our organization as a partner for this particular partnership. So our reporting requirements will be whatever grant funding we receive. So if it is federal or if it is a foundation or what have you, just sticking to whatever standards of reporting those donors have provided.
Great, thank you. Rob, I'm going to hop back over to you for a second. What are the typical time commitments a federal work-study supported college student can make? And thinking both, whether that's each week and also over the course of a semester or a year.
That's a great question. So federal work-study commitments are limited to 25 hours per week on average throughout the year. So it can vary though, and it can go all the way down to whatever a student is willing to commit to. So if you're looking for a student that wants only 4 hours a week, and we have students, if we advertise a position that's only 4 hours a week and the student is interested in that, then it's very likely that you could get someone for that role. There's going to be factors like how close is it to campus, and what levels of transportation are you providing, or what are the times and days. But yeah, there is a limit to the amount, but there is not a minimum. But I think it's going to be based on what the student and the organization is willing to work with.
Great. And what about summer programs? Can federal work-study students work in summer programs?
Yes, they can. And we have been operating summer programs for years. And always looking to operate more. Liz and I are currently talking about some other options for summer programs with the Boys and Girls Club. And there's limited number of students, but it's still available.
Perfect. And this is a question for our nonprofit partners on the panel. What are the most common roadblocks that you run into when trying to partner with a university for federal work-study?
So honestly, we haven't had a lot. So our partnership with ASU has been fantastic, but in some of our newer opportunities that we're working on, it's just understanding the logistics of our program. We are not a school, we're an after-school program. And so just making sure, again, that communication is there and that your partners understand what your program actually looks like and what your needs are. Sometimes for any nonprofit, I'm sure there's misconceptions about what's happening and hours and structure and staffing and all of the above. And so just making sure that you really clearly communicate what it looks like and what your needs are to your partner.
Great, thank you. Michaela, anything you'd add from your perspective around roadblocks?
Sometimes for our partners, for college partners, for our students, because they're serving with AmeriCorps mostly, they are already committing to 300 hours. So sometimes the challenge can be making sure there's enough federal work study dollars available so that they can ideally earn out, be paid for all of their service. So that might be a little negotiating about work study allotments, or at some schools, it's either a number of slots we receive, and at some schools, it's a like overall dollar amount that we receive for the whole program. So sometimes that can be tricky to navigate.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, we're going to wrap up our panel. So Yamilet, Rob, Michaela, Liz, thank you so much for sharing your perspectives and expertise with us. I know I have been jotting down notes that are certainly helpful that I will take back to my own organization. But with that, I will turn it over to Mariko.
Thank you so much to our wonderful panelists for providing all those great perspectives. We so value your expertise, but given time and wanting to make sure we wrap up with all the important next step information, we'll transition to closing now, and just want to draw your attention to some of the key next steps that you all can take to engage with the NPSS. So if you're a nonprofit organization, we invite you to join the NPSS as a supporting champion. Currently, we have 135 supporting champions and growing. And these are all organizations that come engage in various ways, depending on their capacity, their interests, and what they might like to contribute. So this is a very flexible opportunity for you to contribute to the NPSS and also receive support from the NPSS Hub and peers and like organizations. So supporting champions typically are invited to monthly meetings for networking opportunities, as well as collaborative working groups. You get updates from our newsletter and opportunities to collaborate on various NPSS initiatives. And given the many questions we've received today, joining as a supporting champion is a really wonderful step to make sure that you can grapple with some of these challenges with similar organizations that are navigating these struggles and uplifting possible solutions all across the country. So you'll see in the chat the link to join, and we invite you to come engage with us in whatever way works best for you. Feel free to reach out if you have questions about what it means to be a supporting champion, and we'd be happy to address those. We also encourage organizations to request technical assistance. So if you are interested in getting involved, but maybe you're not quite sure where to start, or you have questions about how your organization might be able to engage, please reach out by submitting the technical assistance form also in the chat. This is at no cost, where you can receive consultation from various organizations we partner with that are national experts in this type of work. We also provide support with connecting nonprofit organizations with school districts and higher ed institutions in their regions to support partnership building and collaboration. So if maybe you're looking for additional partners or thinking about how to grow and create more relationships, we'd love to support you in that initiative. We also open technical assistance and NPSS engagement to higher ed institutions. So if you have colleges and universities in your network that you're thinking of partnering with, we'd love to engage them in the process as well. And of course, colleges and universities are welcome to join the NPSS as a member of the Higher Education Coalition. And so we're ongoing in building the coalition and engaging members in similar activities to supporting champions with our nonprofits. And lastly, for general inquiries, we invite you to reach out. We have several folks on the team that are excited to meet with you and engage and support your work. So we have office hours for youth serving organizations, as well as volunteer organizations and corporate volunteers. And then I coordinate office hours for any higher ed institutions that are interested in getting involved. So all this information is in the chat, but also we'll send a follow-up email that provides these links and key points from the webinar. As you'll note, the webinar is also recorded, so in a few days' time, we'll be sharing it on our website. So you all, as well as anyone in your network, are welcome to return to it and engage with us on an ongoing basis. And lastly, I'd like to share a special invitation with you all to attend our first anniversary celebration of the National Partnership for Student Success. This will be a virtual event happening on July 11th. You can sign up to attend via our website on our events page. And this is an open public event where we invite everyone to come celebrate the progress of the NPSS. And we're especially excited to recognize nonprofit organizations that have been instrumental to supporting the effort and answering the president's call to action. So we truly hope to see you all there. And we look forward to engaging you all in the NPSS and supporting your collaboration in your communities to serve P12 students. Thank you so much for attending today, and please reach out anytime.